muchachos, this video is about getting started with Google Classroom. The first thing you need to do is set up a new Gmail account for yourself. So that's what I've done. I am Senor Hartland. And then you navigate your way to classroom.google.com. And to get started, it's as simple as clicking this little plus button here to join or create a class. It's going to give you this disclaimer, so just click yes and continue, and we'll get started. So I'm going to create a class. I'm going to call it Social 10. You can give it a section, and I probably would, I'm not sure if I'm going to go with 1 or 2, but I would give it Section A, Section B, that sort of thing. Google Classroom is always changing, so they'll always update you whenever something does change. So once you are in here, you want to add students. Now there are several ways to do that. The first way is to just give them this code here. So click on the Students button up there, and then you can distribute this code to whoever you want to join your class, and they simply enter it, and they should be able to join, no problem. You can determine what the students want to or are able to do in your classroom. We'll talk about that once we actually have some students in your classroom. So the other way to do it is to go click on Invite Students. So I'm going to invite my other email that I have, and I'll invite myself to become a student in my classroom, just so you can see what it looks like on both sides. And my other email account, and you will get an your students will get an email, something like this, and then so it's just as simple as join, and away we go. So I've now joined the account, or the classroom, and as you can see, there's not a lot to see yet. So let's go back to the other. And we see my class has now got 1 student in it. Now with this student, we can go and set classroom permissions, so we can determine what this person is able to do or not do. So I can let only comment on things that go on in the classroom, or I can just have them be casual observers and get assignments and complete assignments and do things like that. A very brief overview of what Google Classroom does. Basically, it's a window into Google Drive. It makes Google Drive manageable for you and whatever you're wanting to use it for. So we'll go first to the stream. That's where most of the things will be done. So this plus button controls most of the things that you want to be able to do. So let's create an assignment. So you click on Create an Assignment. Now there's a variety of things you can do in creating an assignment. You can give your brief description about what you want for that assignment. If you had multiple students in your class, you could determine if you want all of the students to complete it simply by selecting. So this is useful if you're running 2 sections of the same class. Maybe you want one section to do one and another section to do another. You can post a YouTube video. So let's just do that. A random search, and there it will look like that. So now your students can look at a YouTube video, and it will be generally free from all the distractions that YouTube has, unless they actually click on the video itself. If they watch it within Classroom, it'll be free from distraction. Useful to do for searching purposes is to create a topic. So there's no topics created here, so I want to label this one for Unit 1, so that once all the units are done and my stream becomes cluttered at the end of the year, I can go back and find things easily. So I'm going to call this Unit 1. I'm going to set the due date for next week. And then the other things I can do is I can add a link from my Google Drive. I can add a link to, so like this would be like a direct file from Google Drive. I can add a link to a website. So let's do that quickly. Okay, so and the final thing is you can just upload an attachment, very similar to what you would do anywhere else on the internet. So just drag and drop from your computer. Okay, so I'm just going to add this. It's not going to be in any way useful, but this is just for demonstration purposes. Okay, so then when you will be given this disclaimer to explain what happens to things that you post on Google Classroom. So when all of your students will have a folder automatically created in their Google Drive, and it will be called Classroom. And in that Classroom will be all the classes that they are a member of and all of the files that you put on here, including assignments, uploads, etc., will be linked through their Google Drive folder, so they'll have access to it. But generally that's not the way they want to find it. It's just if they need to, that's where it all goes. Okay, so we'll click Assign from the student view, rather. And this is what it looks like from the student view. Okay, so now as a student I would go in here and I would click Open the assignment. I can just, if it's just something that needs to be read, then I can just mark it as done, and then that will give an indication to the teacher that it is done. I'm not going to do that yet because then I have other options as a student. I can, same thing, I can add a Google Drive folder where I've done the completed work, whatever the task may be. I can add a link to a resource that I need to find or show, or I can upload a file from my computer, just as we did when we created the assignment. Also, the other thing I can do is I can create a live, I can do the assignment within the assignment, so I can open up a doc, a slide, sheets, or drawing, and it'll be completed there. Okay, so this was just a simple check if I understood, so I'm just going to mark this as done, and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, so we'll go back over here, and now we see the teacher has an indication that one is done, so I can go in here now and I can mark it. I can set the scale to, I think Google has just changed to allow decimal points, so oh, maybe not. So I was going to say it's out of 10 points. I do simple grading and return. As a student, I would, or as a teacher, I can toggle between the instructions of the assignment and the actual student work. To use this for assignments, there's a cool add-on for Google Sheets called Doctopus, which does some really cool things, but I've made a video on that one already, which we can talk about. If you return to your assignment, it'll look like this. So it'll give you, there's only one student in this class, but if there are more, it would tell you how many are done, how many are not done, and it's a simple case of it makes it easy to follow up on those students, so that if we want to get in touch with those specific students, we could click on them and send them an email. Other ways to get in touch with the students. So in here on the students panel, you highlight the student you want, and if there was more, you could highlight all of them. And then same thing, you can remove them. You can, if you had them, enabled them to be able to chat and comment on your assignments, you could mute them if they're abusing that privilege, is usually why you would do that. Or if you need to send an email to the whole class or just to a few select students, well, hey, your homework's not done, let's get this show on the road sort of thing, then you can click and email that from there. Pretty straightforward. The last thing I want, so back to the stream. There are a couple more things you can do under this plus button. Okay, so you can create an announcement, and that's as simple as just doing exactly that, creating an announcement. And what that does is, if there's no specific assignment that needs to be done, then you can just give an announcement, and the students will get a notification that an announcement has been made, and they will read it, check in, and do whatever the announcement is saying they need to do, or if it's just a matter of getting ready for whatever, then that's what they need to do. And the same thing as with an assignment, you can attach all of the same things. You can apply a topic if you want, and there you go. And the other thing you can do is create a question. So this is good for exit slips if you wanted to pose this at the start. And then you can allow the students to edit their answers. They can reply to each other, so you can get a conversation going in your classroom. You can make it a short answer. You can create a multiple choice question. You can give it a due date, not due date. You can give instructions, all of these things, and then you ask. So what this all looks like for the students is this. So there's a question. I'm going to submit my answer. I see my teacher has posted that I have homework to do. I don't know clearly what that means, but that's all that it looks like for me. Back in the teacher view, I can look now at the questions in the same way I can look at the answers. I can see that, oh, maybe he doesn't quite get it, so we need to reteach. Final element of the plus menu is just the reuse post. So if there's something you've done or you want to recycle the course from year to year, or if it's a similar type of assignment, you can reuse that at various different points without having to recreate the whole thing from scratch. And so you would just click this, and there's only one class and 3 if so I want to redo assignment 1, and there we go, and it allows me to assign it again. There's assignment 1 there the first time, and there it is, or the second time, and there it is the first time. So the last thing is the About tab. This is where you can put your course description, identify the room number, but what I use it for mostly is adding class materials, and I'll show you what I think is the most efficient way to do that. With everything else, you have your same menu items. You can add a file from your computer, you can add a file from Drive, you can add a YouTube video, or you can add a link. The link is the one I use the most, and I'll show you why. So here's an example of a folder I want to share. I have just copied and pasted I've copied the URL of the folder within Google Drive. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Google Drive link. And then you go add link. And what that will do is it'll make a generic link to Google Drive. And so if you click on that, it will say you need to have permission. So the way you avoid doing that, or having that message, so we go back to Google Drive, and you will have to use your Google Drive with your email that you've created for this classroom. So far not working with exterior emails, either organizational or personal. So I've created a folder called Resources in my Google Drive associated with my Senora Heartland account. I right click on this, I get shareable link, turn the link sharing on, and it is automatically set to anyone with the link can view. I copy that link, I go back to my classroom resources page, I add the link, and I click save. I'm going to get rid of those ones. And it looks much tidier now. So we click on this resources link, and it will open to that folder directly. So you want to just make sure that you have only things that you want students to see. So if this was the first unit, you put all your first unit resources. And the same thing with Google Drive. We all know how to use it. Just dump your stuff in there. Okay, you can, as I said, add any sort of resource. You want to add a YouTube video, if you want to add a specific Drive file, you can do that. But the problem with that is it just ends up being a huge, massive, long list. And what I tend to do is I go unit by unit. So for unit 1, I'd have my resources here. Unit 2, you don't want the students to have to scroll through 5 pages of website to get what they want to do. So that's basically how we set it up. We'll see if we can get the workaround so we can get various different accounts adding on to Classroom. But very long-winded, but that's generally how you get going with Classroom. Hope it was helpful.